Vaea Verbeeck is a Canadian 3 times downhill national champion and the 2019 Queen of Crankworx.
Overcoming those sort of feelings and just, accomplishing new big things for me it's pretty cool. I love it.
Welcome to the Until Sunset podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Osborne. Join us on location with the world's best riders and the Anthill Films crew to explore the moments we capture from sunrise to sunset.
Oh, this is nice.
Let me know when you're ready.
Fun though, fast.
Oh! That's the best. We got the opportunity to work with Vaea on a Make Your Mark video. One of the leading bike parks in BC, Coast Gravity Park, was where we'd aimed to film a large part of the feature. The park was still closed for maintenance before the summer. We reached out to the coastal crew and let them know what we wanted to film, and the response was the Vaea was legit, and they were more than happy for us to come over and shoot. They let us have the place to ourselves, so we set up base in a cabin on the water, about 15 minutes drive from the bike park, and spent the next few days filming on fast trail that featured some massive jumps. Vaea was quite an impressive athlete to work with. Her determination and hard-working attitude really shined through. Once it was all wrapped up, we finished with a little sit-down and a chat to get Vaea's views on her career so far.
Okay. My name is Vaea Verbeeck, and I ride mountain bikes professionally.
Cool. And how did you find that change over to becoming a professional mountain biker?
I don't know. I'm still processing the fact that what I do is ride bikes all year long. I'm still close enough to the days where I worked full time where I can process the fact that I'm outside training or riding or doing emails for biking as compared to like doing it on my downtime when I wasn't working. It's cool. It's a bit strange. It's a bit strange to think that this is it. This is what I was thinking of when I was sitting at my desk looking outside into the mountains thinking, I could be out there riding, but the funny part is I'm not riding that much more. Like I am, but I don't know. There's a lot more that goes on.
And how has mountain bike fit into your life? Like what role does it play to you?
Yeah, mountain biking kind of guided every path in my life, really, as far as the friends that I made back in Quebec, and they were riders, so I just started riding and hung out with them more, and it just guided, your friends, your close relationship, your travels, where you spend your money, like why you started saving money because you wanted to spend it on a bike, and it kind of just paves everything else, even living healthy or what you eat, where you live. That's why I moved to BC. Yeah, it's paved everything for sure.
Mm-hmm. And how would you describe to other people your style of riding? What is it in your own words?
My style of riding, I guess, is a bit, or I guess my preference would be fast, flow, but finding flow through tech. So, hooking through a good corner, but trying to float through some techy bits. Definitely learning to like jumps and bigger jumps, and I don't know. I'm just kind of learning in a bit of all of the areas and as far as mountain biking goes. So I like a bit of everything, but I have a preference in high speed, flow, jump, tech. If that falls into one category, right?
Well, do you think it's hard to classify it, to put it into a discipline?
I definitely think I prefer racing air downhill when it comes to like what I race with Crankworx events, just because of how I feel going into it. I like knowing what I'm going into, and air downhill is super predictable. Like, squash tabletops, hit corners as hard as you can and as best as you can, and I like finding that edge of perfection, and I like everything to be on point. So with downhill, it's just a different approach with how gnarly it can be and how slippery it can be, while with RDH you can really hook it. And that's where I don't mind sprinting and working hard for it because I know that the trail can take it. So I like that.
To win an RDH? Like what fitness levels, what type of rider does that take?
The type of rider to win an RDH would be someone that's got power. Which is funny to think of me as a powerful rider. I I can remember not so long ago, people were laughing at me because I had skinny legs, and now I got good legs. I got good power. But yeah, you got to be a good sprinter and good at cornering and good at squashing. It's really a bit of everything that adds up, because a lot of it is same pace for all of the riders. So you just got to find those milliseconds in every bit of the trail to end up winning it. So yeah.
Yeah, it shows. It's easy to see how hard you work as a rider. What does that take from you? What do you have to give to reach those extra gains?
I don't know what happened. I'm just following where mountain biking is taking me. And so I was training for downhill racing for many years and doing rehab for injuries every other year, if not every year. And then, yeah, I don't know. I just really enjoyed working on power moves. And I have a background with gymnastics, which, as random as it is, it's a lot of sprinting and quick power. And I really like training that side of, I don't know, that side of exercise.
Yeah, I guess kind of getting to seeing all the training you put in, what inspires you to put in so much hard work in that area?
Yeah, I definitely got a taste a couple years ago for success. For many years, I was getting injured a lot, and I was always fighting rehabs and trying to get back and just climbing my way back and never getting anything noteworthy on paper, which was frustrating. So I just had to tone it down and learn to just have a good time, which at the same time Crankworx came about. So I had a lot of learning to do with other new disciplines to me. So learning is always pretty cool, because if you pick it up quickly, you can feel progression. So that feel of progression is motivating. And then pretty quickly getting that mixed with a win or two, or being on the top 3, and then in the overall you're looking pretty good, and then feeling that progression pretty quickly is super motivating. And knowing that I can do good in a certain kind of events motivates me to go into them knowing I should win it. If everything goes well, if I do what I have to do to win it, then I know I can win it, so I should win it. It's a cool feeling to be stoked to race something thinking that you got it. Which seems so not humble to think about, but I don't know, it's just, and I also really enjoy that kind of riding, so everything just goes well. And if I get beat, but I was super on point with my run, then it's still a win. Like basically I'll just have big respect for the person that beat me, because they were extra powerful putting their run together as well. I'm most of the time just fighting myself to get a perfect run, which in mountain biking, we all know it's super difficult. So that's why we keep coming back. But as far as RDH goes, you can actually get pretty close to perfection there. So if I hit that and I don't win, that hasn't happened yet. So I like to challenge myself in trying to reach that perfection again and see if I can win again.
Yeah. And coming into next year, this upcoming year, basically, what would be your goal as a rider?
Well, I guess my goal right now is to back up what I did this year. Basically, going into this year, I had been working on the smaller bikes and my weaknesses, and I wasn't expecting, I was expecting progress, but I wasn't expecting to lead an overall at all. That's what I was going for, but I wasn't expecting to come out number 1 at the end of the year. So to have done it is super cool, but my plan hasn't changed. I'm still really deep in books and learning what I'm trying to achieve. So it's cool. I won, and now I get quite a bit of attention with it, but I got a lot of work to do. So right now my goal is just to back up my overall win with another overall win, because hopefully I'll get that progression to keep going for every bit of bikes that I ride.
So this year you won the Queen of Crankworx. You also won the overall slalom, which is pretty new to you. When was your first?
I think my first slalom was in Whistler. Was it last summer? A year ago? I got 5th. I don't know, but it's very, very new. I forget now. But yeah, within 1 or 2 years, and then you win an overall world title. pretty shocking. Great, but yeah, I'm definitely. I don't feel like an expert by any mean, which is strange to think that I won and then I don't feel like an expert. But
is it cool to think about the inspiration you must be providing for other riders?
yeah, I actually get quite a bit of messages, even from close friends, that really get like it really revives some motivation in them. That like, I don't know, if you set your mind to wanting to learn something new, if you just do it and make a plan for it, it's totally doable. Anyone can do it, and this little girl here somehow did it. So now everybody's like, well, if she did it, obviously I can do it. But yeah, no, it really is as simple as setting a goal and doing it, and everybody knows it, but sometimes we just don't commit to going for that goal that we're dreaming about. But yeah, it's definitely doable.
While we're in the early planning stages of this video, something came up that you mentioned about not wanting this edit to be a specific girls-only group type riding video. Why is that?
What my thought is on women only this or that is I'm definitely for gathering some women riding together so we can progress faster, because there is definitely something about seeing someone you can relate to more hit something and then be like, okay, now the door's open, let's just all hit it. So I think that by gathering women together, we're able to progress faster, which is kind of what we need to do. Not that we're playing catch up with the guys, but we're looking up to the guys right now, and that's kind of where the direction we want to go to. So making it happen in a more progressive way is what I think is sweet. But I am so not cool with it being exclusive. Like, I wouldn't want the guys, like I started riding and I grew up riding with my guy friends, and they were never like, oh, you're a girl, like you can't come along. I was always one of the guys. And I think a lot of us girls that ride professionally were always one of the guys when they grew up riding. So now to be taken as like, well, you're the girl, you're the one put on the spotlight, and then the guys are out, like that makes no sense. Like, I've always been one of the guys, and I've always wanted to be accepted and work my way towards becoming what the guys are doing, because I know they're so inspiring. But there's no way I'd want to create any sort of exclusivity in women's riding. And it works. It's more approachable for some women that want to start. Like, it's more approachable for them going and getting into the sport because it's a male-dominated sport. I get it. For some, that's how it works. But for me, that wasn't my path. My guys were always super, super inclusive of me and super helpful and motivating. So, yeah, I owe them a lot.
Yeah, I feel like it comes across in that way where you want to be there for your riding. Is that a way to inspire others to do the same?
Yeah, I think it's awesome to inspire other people. And if some people like to look up to me as inspiration, I think that's awesome. And if being a girl is a platform that puts me on the pedestal for that, sure, like whatever can inspire other people is awesome. But I was definitely always making sure that I wasn't getting that kind of attention. There's always, I think maybe not anymore, but when I first started racing World Cups, you can just feel that you're getting the attention from the fact that you're a girl. And I put my head down and I was just trying to get it on paper. That's where it mattered to me.
It's been a really cool year for women in mountain biking, especially in the free ride side of things.
Yeah, 2019 was actually pretty big for free ride and women. There was a huge presence all throughout the year. There was the first mountain bike film featuring female athletes, and we took part of that. And first time doing like a rampage style. I don't know if you should call it a rampage style, but really that's what it is. We went to an old rampage site and picked lines and dug a line and rode it. And that was the first experience of gathering a group of girl riders together and see how we felt on that terrain, to see where it could go in the future. And they went really well. It was awesome.
How did it feel to be out there to ride that? It's such a different terrain that not many people get to ride a lot. What was like? How did you experience that as a first time being there?
Well, first I was a bit, just a bit intimidated. Like, this kind of riding is especially stressful. It's exposure. It's unknown terrain. I'm not a fan of riding ridges at all, and also not a fan of riding super dry, loose sand. So the combination of the two, when you look at a rampage style riding, you're going to be out of your comfort zone. It's not a hooky berm in the bike park for this girl that learned how to bike in the bike park. Definitely outside the bike park. But I was definitely excited to learn because I've learned in recent years that learning is super fun. And gathering us there and just getting a taste for the terrain, actually learning it works better than it looks. It looks scary, but it rides better. So yeah, spending time on the dirt was what we needed, and it went really well. And there's a lot of potential. I'm excited for it for sure.
And breaking new ground, riding in Utah's female athletes for formation. Did you ever think while you were there what sort of a moment that was, that it could grow into something that's really big and powerful for women in cycling?
Yeah, no, that's right. I didn't spend too much time thinking about it, but it definitely every now and then crosses my mind, and it's really cool. I'm really honored to have been invited to this first edition. Like, what was it, 6 girls? 6 girls across the world that were invited, and I was one of them. Like, I think it's crazy. I spent too many years being like mid-pack, bottom of the list at World Cup races to think that I'm this person being invited on at the top of the list right now. Like, I think that's insane.
And for you, riding in so many different areas and competing in that way, what was the draw to go out to Utah to ride? Rampage
definitely defines the cutting edge of free ride. And as much as I'm working on disciplines for racing, the overall, I feel like my brain doesn't stop there. And so free ride is another mountain bike discipline. And I really enjoy this discipline. And the more I dip my toes into it, the more I love it and I want to keep learning. So yeah, the Rampage idea being on the cutting edge of the spectrum, that's the end goal, really. That's what you want to work towards. So it was definitely a must to go and try. And it's definitely a must to go back and grow from there.
Cool. Other riders, other athletes, what do you draw inspiration from anyone in particular?
I like to follow, the personable, approachable characters that are at the top of our sports. So yeah, basically anyone sitting on top of podiums that make you crack a good laugh because they stay true to themselves and don't take themselves too seriously. Those are the people that I really look up to. I definitely looked up to Stevie a lot, so I'm always still, grounding myself back to what I'm really here doing. Like, I'm just riding bikes, having a good time with friends.
What makes someone a good champion?
I think you got to stay pretty humble and just look forward nonstop. You might be told you're number one and you won, but I don't know. There could have been a bit of luck, and who knows what happened. Seasons can go in all different sorts of directions, but there's a lot more work to do, and I don't know. I could win a race yet know that I screwed up a section and I'm not going to celebrate all that much, or I could have a dialed run and be super happy with myself. And again, if someone beats me, like, kudos to them. Like,
winning? How does winning feel for you?
Winning is awesome. And like, it's awesome in the way that like people look at you and congratulate you. And it's like, thank you. But I know inside that I want to work so much more and I want to do better than what I just did. So it's kind of weird. I don't know. I'm not that great at celebrating a win right now. Let's just say that. Because I feel like I got so much work to do. Like, I look up to really great riders, and maybe I'm being too harsh on myself, but I think maybe it's because I know I can get there, and that's what I'm shooting for. And those goals are probably always going to grow. So I don't know if I'll ever learn how to celebrate, how to win, but who cares? I'm happy. I'm progressing. Winning along the way is awesome. I'll take it for sure.
How do you go about your training for events, and how does that compare to some other athletes?
I think getting all of training and all the preparation covered is really different for all riders. Personally, I'm definitely harsh on myself, and I'm hard to satisfy, let's just say, from my own performances. So for me, I have to learn to chill. I have to learn to just be okay with not being perfect, because this is something I'm working towards. And so over the years, being so harsh on myself, I was often frustrated. And then I would get injuries, and then it's like, you just get frustrated, and it's like, is it worth it? Like, I'm working so hard, putting so much money, and then I'm getting injured, and I'm losing opportunities, and like, it's like, Rob, and it's like, dude, you're just riding bikes, and the whole process should be actually pretty sweet. So now I'm actually pretty good at cutting corners, if you want. Like, I'm actually pretty good at being okay with it. Like, if I want to eat a treat, just do it. If I feel like I need to work on this or that at the gym instead of what is written on the paper, if that's how I feel, that I'm going to feel better coming out of it that day, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm just trying to just be okay with listening to what I want to be happy, because if I'm happy is when I ride the best. So yeah, I think I'm definitely hard enough on myself to do the work, but I need to also learn to chill enough that I'm mainly happy, and that's the most important part.
And with the training, specifically in the gym, is there anything that you really focus on and work towards?
Not anymore. I remember a couple of years ago, I used to literally in the change room, I would watch a World Cup replay. And I would watch the women's category, because that's where I can see where they were stronger than I was in that section, and I can see my replays versus the winner's replay. It's random. Yeah, I remember always watching World Cup replays, because that reminds me of how tired I felt and how I kind of toned down and lost time. And that would motivate me to get the extra work done so that I don't feel that way then. But now, in recent years, I've definitely haven't done that at all. I just, because I had a taste for what it takes to win, and it might have been a surprise win, but I knew that winter I worked really hard and I was super powerful. So yeah, now I just got to recreate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a young Vaea, who are you looking to then as inspiration?
Young Vaea was looking up to Sam Hill. Young Vaea started riding when Earth 4 or 5 was out. So Sam Hill was big. Sam Hill was based out of Bromont, Quebec, which is where I started biking, and that's where I was living. So he'd be in my hometown, in my bike park. I'd be asked to show him around the trails, and I could barely speak English. So yeah, I don't know. I just looked up to Sam a lot, and he did the speaking through his riding, as we all know. And I thought that was pretty rad, and just being aggressive and hooking. So, yeah, I don't know. That kind of riding style is what spoke to me. Other than that, yeah, just knowing Stevie and him off the bike is what I was looking up to as well. I loved his riding style, but just putting a big face on why our bike's so rad and why we're having some good time, why we're getting those kinds of people getting into the sport, and why we're such a tight family. And yeah, riding is sweet. It makes you feel good, but everything else that comes with it is what really makes it really cool. So that's what's important for me.
Are there any failures? Any athletic failures you could talk about?
Well, it's not really a failure. There's two stories that come to mind are totally different. One of them is, again, with my World Cup racing downhill background, I had lots of issues with arm pump, and I still do. That's just something, as soon as it's quite steep and you got to hold the brake a bit longer, or just gripping too tight. Who knows what I'm doing? But yeah, the bottom splits of my race runs were always dropping the anchors and surviving my way down. So that was kind of a motivation with moving away from downhill racing and focusing on something different, like Crankworx, which is a bunch of other mountain bike disciplines, including downhill, but maybe not as gnarly or as physically demanding on the arm pump. So far it's been working out well. And I can actually be myself, ride hard, and not have this issue come up too much.
Were you upset when you gave up World Cups?
I guess it was a really last minute turn of event where I lost this like World Cup sponsor, so I couldn't go to events with like the pit that I was used to. So the idea of going back to privateer wasn't that motivating because I wasn't doing that well anyways because of the whole arm pump issue, and I was always just sitting outside top 5 and never at a podium at a World Cup, just outside. So I felt pretty lost actually. I felt inspired by other riders that did other things than racing World Cups, and I was kind of interested in trying that myself and learning other disciplines and playing in other areas. But downhill racing is kind of the only thing I ever knew and what I was looking up to, and that was kind of the end goal for many years for me. So yeah, I felt pretty lost, to be honest, and that kind of came along at the same time as working less on like a 9-to-5 type job and being more of a biker. So figuring out how to be a biker professionally and also not really knowing what I'm doing was really strange. And it didn't come together until like March that year where I won my first races and started progressing, or basically where I started seeing the results on paper were matching how much work I put in the off season. But that whole time I was training and riding in the off season, I kind of had no idea how it was going to turn out.
And what was your first win?
My first win, I believe, was the air downhill race in Rotorua, where I beat Jill, that I think has won that event for as many years as she's raced it. So it's a tight race, and it's it's a game of perfection. So that definitely stood out and surprised me a bit.
That must have made you feel quite proud. You must have been pretty stoked with that.
Yeah, I think that year was kind of weird because there was a timing issue, and I was sitting second the whole time. So I don't know, it felt right, and then I backed it up with the next air DH as well. So, but it was pretty cool actually, because that year that I won the first time, it was with 2 Olympians sitting in second and third. There was Jill and Caroline Buchanan, who have huge backgrounds in BMX or 4-cross, and they're powerhouses. And there I am sitting on top of that. So that was kind of like a, whoa, I want to be a powerhouse. So that was cool.
What was the other, whenever I asked if there were any failures, you said there was 2 things that came to mind.
The year after I broke my femur, where I was so long off the bike, so long doing rehab. And then the year after, I was trying to get back into World Cup racing, and it drained my energy too much. I was doing track walk on the first day of a race weekend, and then probably, I'd cry every night after track walk, just drained of energy. It wasn't necessarily in pain. My leg was not that bad, but it just took a lot of juice from me, and then the riding part wasn't making me that happy. It was too hard physically to want to ride. So that was weird, and that's where I kind of quickly asked myself if I wanted to do something else than biking. Not that if I wanted to, but it was more like, maybe you should consider something else, because this is clearly not making you that happy right now. And that thought made me so sad, because, thinking of mountain biking, which, paved my best friends and where I live and what I do and where I travel, and stop pulling the plug on mountain biking is kind of made no sense for everything else. So anyways, I just needed some more time. So I just decided to be a bit more patient with it and not think too much. But so it worked out, obviously.
Let's pause the interview right there. Vaea is talking about breaking her femur, which was in a Canada Cup in Bromont, Quebec. There were kids standing watching her as she got launched off her bike, going through a feature into a berm. The children's eyes looking at her as she sees her leg broken and bent the wrong way. She talks about how this injury made her consider doing something else other than biking. It's pretty amazing to think about the courage it takes to overcome an injury like this. Not only to come back to the sport, but to come back and keep on pushing the limits so hard. We got to experience how hard she pushes herself when filming at the Coast Gravity Park with her.
I think I would jump from this to here and then be hard on the brakes.
I like how you aired into there, which should be a good cut from butter.
Because it feels like I'm fighting not to jump all the way here, so if I just commit and pop.
Sending massive jumps over and over.
Okay, drop it!
And you can just hear how much fun she's
I'm
having.
ready! Yeah! Woo, that's fast. That corner's sweet. Did it.
Back into the interview where she gives a few more details on the crash.
Think too much, but...
Could you explain your crash, breaking your femur?
I was racing a Canada Cup in my hometown, or in my local mountain in Bromont. And the year before, 2010, I won the Canada Cup. And 2011, I was all stoked, and it was the week before World Cup in Mont Saint Anne. So anyways, there was bigger riders there, and I was kind of stoked to do a really good result amongst really solid riders. And yeah, I don't know, just came slightly from an inside on a slick rock before a wooden grip taped berm. It's a pretty janky setup we had for a racetrack, but it's a cool racetrack, but long story short. Slight miss, slightly more on the inside going into that berm, and then just jackknifed out and flew in the air. I have no idea if my leg was broken because of my bike, if it got tangled. I had no idea. Not that I lost memory either. It just happened in the blink of an eye. And then all I knew was I was facing the ground, kind of in a push-up position, and the rest you don't want to hear, really. Like, my leg was just pointing in a different direction, and just had to sit back and make it look a bit more normal, because your eyes and your brain can't process what you're seeing. It's like, and then you got to straighten it out so it somewhat looks okay. Yeah.
And what did you think when you...
Honestly,
and you see...
I was so confused. I did not process I broke my femur. I was like, oh, I must be like, I dislocated my hip or my pelvis. Like, something's just going to pop back in and it'll be a few weeks off and I'll be okay to go back to the World Cup, you know? I might be okay. Meanwhile, I'm like staring at my foot in my face. I might be okay. And then there was kids, like pretty young kids, maybe 7 and 8. And that was the year after I was coaching a camp around Bromont. So I kind of knew a lot of those kids that came here to watch. And I was one of the racers racing. And they were standing right there off the tape. And they were staring at me, like waiting to get a reaction from me, like, is she okay? And so I looked at them and I was in French. I was like, it's pretty gross, hey? And they were like, yeah, like super relieved that I was okay, but also like agreeing, like, yeah, it's super gross. Because my leg was like, yeah. But that was pretty funny. That brought me back on earth a little bit, just having people watching and kids. And I was like, okay, it's going to be okay. Happens.
It's crazy.
That's a good story, actually. That's fucking, you can die from that.
Yeah, dude. Okay, I worked on the ski patrol in the winter, on those winters. In Bromont. So I knew the ski patrol or the first aid people. I knew the patrol team. But I just didn't work there in the summer. But they were the ones that came up and scooped me onto the board to evacuate. And so that was nice to have people that I knew, except that one old dude, and goes like, oh, her leg is like super big and she must have snapped her, what do you call this?
Femoral artery.
Femoral artery? Yeah, so he was saying like, oh, she must have snapped her femoral artery, like, and I was like, wait a second, does that mean I have like 5 minutes to live right now. And then instantly I went white. And my closer friend that worked on the team was like, saw that I got white right away. And she just thought like, okay, like I was an idiot for saying that. But right now I need Vaea to feel better. Otherwise she's going to pass out. So she was like, no, don't worry. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Just trying to get me to like breathe a bit better. So they put me on oxygen and we left. But yeah, she had no idea either. Could have been. But I definitely, that split thought, I was like, am I about to die even though I feel totally fine right now? That was weird. But then you had to just forget about that idea because, you know, put all of the chances on your side. Try not to pass out right now and get your blood pumping. If it's bleeding out, you try not to pump it too hard. I don't know. So I just had to chill and it was fine.
Wow. What year did you turn pro?
In 2018 is when I turned pro.
And where have you got to now? How fulfilled do you feel now as an athlete? Can you talk about maybe some of your achievements?
I definitely have achieved either results or hitting lines or jumps that I would never dare to look at before. Like, you know, when you look at something and you're not even that worried looking at it, you're just like, oh yeah, cool. Like, because you wouldn't consider doing it. That was kind of me a few years ago. Until actually Casey, queen of big jumps and whips, was like, I've seen you jump. You should totally come to whip off. And I was like, what? And then I remember showing to whip off, and that was that one in Innsbruck, which you can see across from the pond. And you just see this majestic, huge, pristine looking jump. And I was like, yeah, no. Okay, cool. I came up there with my gear and I was like, we'll see how it looks. And then I saw it from afar and I was like, no. And as soon as I walked over closer and just watched other people hitting it, it just looked so smooth and so fun and so good. And just slowly hiked my way to the top and I was hitting it. And then I was starting running back up the hill to just hit it more and more. And since then I know that even if something looks totally out of proportions for something that I should be doing, it's actually something I'm capable of, and I should trust that and just study what I need to do it and then do it. And overcoming those sort of feelings and just accomplishing new big things for me it's pretty cool. I love it.
That's awesome. What do you find is more important for you, the mental side of racing or the physical side?
I guess it would be more important on the mental side. You gotta want it. You gotta want to put the time and go train or go work on some goal or work on a weakness, which I hate it. I definitely am not a fan of working on something where I feel slow and weak, and it's no fun. But the end goal is to actually start feeling like you can actually create more speed and just get better at what it is you're working on. But yeah, you gotta fight it. You gotta, even though you don't want to, that's the one thing you should be working on. So you gotta go and do that instead of the fun part. Yeah, that's the sport. That's racing.
And how much of a role does confidence play? Yeah,
confidence. Yeah, that's the big goal. That's the one thing you need to trust that you can build confidence, because it's easy to say like, yeah, you just need confidence, or if you have confidence that you can do it, just do it. But this is actually something that you need to build. You need to make a point of creating experience and hitting something you're trying to work on, so that when you go to that special jump that you have never hit and you want to hit but you're not confident enough, you need to build that other experience to back up your confidence, and it kind of just naturally comes, but you got to make a point to work for it.
And how long have you been racing for now?
First race was in 2008, and 2018 was when I turned pro and didn't have to work outside of biking. And the funny part is that I used to be pretty young athletes into the sport, and now 10 years later I feel like I'm obviously no longer in the young ones, but this is where I feel like I'm progressing the most. so I kind of feel at my best within the sport because I see so much potential of where I can grow. So in that sense, I feel extremely young and I have a lot to do and I want to do a lot. So
What would you say to a younger rider now that may be struggling?
well, if they enjoy it, just carry on with it because that's the number one part of having motivation on working on something is really wanting, really enjoying what you're doing. So just carry on with it. Hang out with people that will motivate you with working on what it is you're passionate about. And yeah, just keep at it. And if there's opportunities coming up, take them. Like, yeah, I never put on the map, or I never read into the future that I was going to become a professional mountain bike rider. Like, I did it because I loved it and I wanted to race, and I kept racing because I was so motivated to get better results. But I never really saw like 5-10 years down the road. I was just looking at the next year. Next year I'll go back to that venue and do better. And now it's, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
That's awesome. That was
Okay. Good luck cutting that up.
Yeah,
Blah, 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 blah.
This was an interview recorded on location for the filming of the Make Your Mark episode with Vaea Verbeeck. The video was directed by Colin Jones, filmed by Matthew Butterworth, and edited by Darren McCullough. To watch this video, go to Ride Shimano's video page on YouTube or search Vaea Verbeeck Still Growing.
Yeah, that sound, Joe?
Oh my God. I think I pushed it a little too much. If it looks sketchy, I don't want that shot, but oh, I landed so deep. Oh. I think one of my shoulders caved in a bit. Oh. Felt like a head slapper. Damn it.